knowing that we still have a long way to go, it's really amazing what he was able to write about.
Mm-hmm. You have to realize that, let's see, Conan Doyle writes at the median point of Freud's lifetime, some of this, and therefore then he would have had access to id and ego. He would have superego. That could have helped considerably in the kind of work he did. Obviously, I think he was a brilliant writer, and just way ahead of his time. Way ahead of his time. Being a doctor didn't hurt. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Curiously,
yes,
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle became very interested in the spiritualism movement at the time.
Yes.
What would you say about that?
I think that really, to my way of thinking, that remember where I come from Hopkins, and there were basic kind of people that are from the show me university. Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. I think what happens is when you go so far at times, you've used every kind of wherewithal that you have to try to find out reality. At times you move into this spiritual side. I think you saw that with Houdini as well. You saw it with Conan Doyle. You see it with a number of different people tend to think, well, we've gone so far, and yet it still hasn't answered all of our questions. Perhaps there's another spectrum, and it could be. It could be that that's what they were seeking, and that's what we should be seeking. But the point is, I see that as a common issue, that there's a movement toward spirituality among several people. You don't see it with certain other writers, but I did see it with that. I do see it with Houdini, who pushed the edge of his attempts to master his craft to a point where then he was very interested in the afterlife and spirituality, and he set up a thing into which he would say, here's what I'm going to say in the afterlife, only you will know it.
Right. His wife was became very interested, of course, after his death, but he actually was more interested in debunking and going after the hooks.
But see, that doesn't matter. It's still an interest in spirituality. It's just
I think he was trying to, if it was true, he would have embraced it.
Good for us. Good for us. Right. Good for our side.
Right. Finding the fakes, frauds.
Yes, which he did not want. Yes, yes.
And do you feel that some of these writers, like especially if they don't have a background, that they almost have to have some of these traits to be able to write like this, or
say Poe?
Yeah, that's where I was going with that.
He had an interesting one.
Oh my God, yes. My whole understanding of Poe is that this is a tortured man. Now, why was he tortured? He was tortured because he had an addictive personality disorder to begin with. Okay, that's one of the things. Yet people told him that it was a weakness at his point. I think the other thing that you have to remember about Poe is that Poe had this interest in the occult that was deeply involving him.
I read a life story of Poe, which was very interesting.
Yeah.
His mother had a baby before him. She named Edgar Poe because he took the name of Allen later in life.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. She used to take him to the grave of the infant child. That was his name. So here he's learning to read, and there's his name on a gravestone. And
at the time, that was not unusual.
Not unusual back then. There was a great thing with death.
Well, death was so common.
It was always there.
Yeah.
And
I lived in Yucatan in 1966, and I would go to the huts of different Mayan families. And over the hut, they'd have stars, and you'd see like 7 stars. 4 of them would be blacked out. And so you'd ask a Mayan woman, how many children do you have? She'd say 7, 3 living. That was very common. I took over the burial part of the church because our priest had 7 different towns to go to. Because I volunteered to work, I was in charge of this thing. And we unfortunately buried a child almost every day. Little tiny ones especially, of amoebic dysentery, that sort of thing. That was quite common. And I think back, if you think to Poe's day, death in the family was quite common. I'm not sure that trotting off to the 7th grade is a great idea.
Well, they didn't know better.
But it gives you fascination.
They said that was one of his things.
It's a predilection.
And
what just think about all the different kinds of things in which you're encased, which is a burial theme, that sort of thing.
Of course, his sweetheart died.
But I think going back to the nature nurture thing, I think that's so fascinating, and that they can use to diagnose people, that they can take a look at their past now and know that it's going to maybe affect them as an adult in their adulthood.
Yes.
It's just fascinating.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that brings you back to Ann's question of what kind of interventions are interventions that are used with very young kids who are showing maybe dangerous signs of psychopathology. We know that the environment is going to create sociopaths. We know that part of it. That unfortunately is a sad truth to that. That's a very interesting question. I think the other question is the question that I think has been raised a few times is what basically does the author know to create these characters who are either psychopaths or sociopaths? I think you really have to be a great student of human nature to do that. To me, I find some brilliantly written, they could almost be case studies. And then I find some that are just so silly. I mean, you just think, come on.
Well, that's the thing. If it doesn't ring true, your fans are going to let you know.
Exactly. And I think that's probably also something that a good editor is on the lookout for. Yeah. Does this make sense psychologically? Does this make sense?
Could this happen?
Exactly. Does it have any foothold in reality, or is this something that's almost very much fantasy type of thing?
Well, we have a lot of first-time writers that listen to us. Hopefully they can use this information if they're going to do a psychological thing.
And I would tell them, just look at the literature on the differences between psychopaths and sociopaths. It's fascinating in itself. And you could say, doggone it, I know people like that. Or I've heard of people like that. Or this has rung true from a book I read by X or Y or Z. And I think that's the good beginning. But also know that there's an overlying rubric, which is this antisocial personality disorder. And it basically says right out front, any of the types of rules that you and I operate by don't apply. You won't find normal people in here. You're only going to find people that couldn't care less. And you're going to find people that run roughshod over other people's feelings. They operate without conscience. They operate...
not the whole group, but the Hells Angels.
Classic.
They do what they want to do.
Well, that's the group identity. It's a whole group identity.
Yeah.
But again, there's a little bit of strange logic in that. Is if the whole group does it, therefore I can't be seen as individually responsible.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think in some aspect, we've all done that ourselves. When you're with a group, it's a little okay to do something you normally
Oh, sure.
do.
Skinny dipping is a classic one.
Yeah.
That's a boy. You don't have to take the individual responsibility that if you just faced yourself in the mirror and said, I did that.
Yeah.
No. I was in a group of people. And
they all.
If you would have been there, you would have understood it.
And in a way, it's kind of true. Because
sure.
That's the kind of definition of mob mentality.
Right.
You were.
Exactly.
Well, that's how riots start.
Sure.
You get a crowd together, one throws a brick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This was fascinating.
This was definitely fascinating.
Well, I'm so glad. I've enjoyed myself immensely, and I will get some information to you on this.
Thank you so much for taking time to
it was really
talk to us, because we don't know what we're doing.
I doubt that.
We do.
I complimented all three of you. I said, they read seriously. I said,
we do.
If we have an author, they've been into that author. And I said,
well, that's what in our podcast we tell them, we will take your book, we will read it, and we will give you a fair and balanced review.
Good.
And that's all we can do.
Exactly.
We are
not experts.
That's great.
And we do not pretend to be. Rowland Savage was the kind of person who would shine a warm light on everyone's best self, always ready with unabashed praise, an emphatic ear, and a playful story to share. He was a lovable, intelligent, caring man with a witty sense of humor. Throughout his life and career, he faced each challenge with incredible strength and optimism.
Now, these are things that his colleagues said.
Rowland saved many, many students, said Robert Y. Dubell of Glenarm, who was superintendent of Baltimore County Schools for 16 years until retiring in 1992. He had overcome a lot of obstacles in his own life, was an empathetic person, and was so devoted when it came to helping troubled students. Lynn F. Mueller, who is current senior chief for student services and school counseling for the State Department of Education, is a longtime friend and colleague, said if he entered a room within 3 minutes, you were drawn to him.
The ripple effect of his life's work is ongoing and immeasurable in its breadth and depth. There is no doubt that his lessons from the podiums and in the classrooms have had a powerful reach and undeniable impact in school systems and communities across the country. For Rowland's friends, family, and loved ones, we could also learn a couple vital lessons from his beautiful life. Approach new experiences with an intellectual curiosity. Delight in all the delicious flavors of the world. Listen for the poetic beauty in song and writing while allowing yourself to feel the full operatic arc of emotion. Hear the needs of others. Speak the words that are within your heart. Live life with joy. These are excerpts taken from the official obituaries in the Baltimore Sun.
We couldn't come up with anything more fitting. We agree completely. They said what was in our hearts that we couldn't express as well as they did. We will miss him dearly. He was a shining light every month in our book club. If he was away traveling, we looked forward to his report when he got back of where he had gone. He just made you feel welcome. When you walked into a room, there was Rowland and his big smile.
And I think anyone would hope to have the relationship that he had with his wife, Maureen. They truly were a love story that was all-encompassing. Our club will never be the same.
We love our members of our book club.
Rowland made book club very special. He had a story for just about any topic you could come up with.
As long as there was not a cat or a dog in the book.
What also made his visits to our book club special is he was very smart, very knowledgeable about the mental health field. Whenever we did a psychological thriller or any kind of book like that, he was our expert to find out if the book got it right.
We looked to him for real life experience and background.
And as I say, we will miss him dearly.
We definitely will miss him.
That brings us to the end of this episode.
Our hearts go out to Rowland's family. I'm sure is a very difficult time being the first Christmas since his passing in August.
We'd like to take the time to wish those that celebrate Christmas a very happy one. And if you celebrate any other holidays, just enjoy them and be with your family.
This is a time for everyone to come together.
Happy whatever you celebrate.
Exactly. Happy Festivus.
So next week will be New Year's Eve when the episode comes out, and we are working on a little something for you, and so we hope you join us.
And remember,
life would be boring without a little mystery.
Bye. Merry Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho.